My name is Victor, and welcome back to another ALINT-PRO tutorial. In today's video, we'll be covering how to edit a project's policies and waivers via the command line. So this video is going to be utilizing the blackcheck Verilog sample workspace. So when we open that, I also have this policy commands.do file, which is going to hold a few of the policy and waiver commands that I'll be running on the command line during this video. Now, the other files I'll be opening are going to be two instances of the preferences, one for this particular project, so I'll go ahead and open its properties, and we can see that there's a policy window here, and then I'll also open the global policies. So, with those two, the last extra window that I'll be opening is going to be the command reference guide. So this is going to list all of the project commands that we'll be utilizing. In particular, we'll be concerned with two types. We're going to be using the project.policy commands, as well as the project.waiver commands down here at the bottom. And here are those waiver commands. So we'll be beginning with the policy commands first, then we'll move on to the waivers. And we won't be visiting these pages too much, but rather these are where you can go to get more clarification and also full details on what each of the individual arguments do for all of the commands. But we'll go ahead and begin with the first few commands that are pretty important. The one that I'll be running the most here is going to be the list rules command. So first, I'm just going to go ahead and check to make sure that we're in the correct directory. So here you'll notice that I'm running present working directory, and I want to be in the blackcheck directory. So I'm going to go ahead and move over there using this cd command to move over to the blackcheck Verilog directory. And then I'm going to go ahead and open the workspace within this directory and also the particular project, blackcheck_Verilog. That's this project here. So now with that, I've opened the workspace and I'm in the correct directory. If I run pwd again, you'll notice that I'm in the correct directory here. So I can go ahead and run the list rules command here, and this argument is going to tell me which project I'm going to be running that command on. Now, if you don't have a project set as the active project, you need this argument here to specify which project you're looking at. If you omit this parameter, or if you omit this argument, it will assume that you're trying to run this command on whatever your active project is. However, you'll notice that since we're already in the blackcheck Verilog project within my command line, I don't have the project argument for any of my other commands. So just keep that in mind. I'll go ahead and run this, and you'll notice that we have a few of the policies listed that are all enabled. So here are this 58 of the policies, and over in the policy tab in the GUI mode, you'll notice that we have all of the ALDEC_CDC policies enabled. And so that's what they've listed here, all of the ALDEC-CDC policies. Now, the next command we can run is we can go ahead and add some policies to this. So I'll go ahead and run this command to add the entire ALDEC basic Verilog rule set, which is going to be ALDEC basic here, and it's going to be all of the commands which begin with ALDEC basic vlog or Verilog. So let's go ahead and run that. And now that we've run that, you'll notice if we reload the GUI, it'll be showing a different policy window because we've actually updated it with a few of the different policies we've added in. And additionally, if we run in the project policy list rules again, and this time I'm going to do it with details to show off that argument, we have many more policies here. So all of these are listed in detail in terms of what their severity, rule level, and titles are. So that's what you get when you use the detailed argument. However, you can always omit this, so I'll go ahead and do that as well. So getting rid of the detailed argument, you'll notice here's the same list we were just looking at, except we've added in the ALDEC basic Verilog rules, or rather the entire ALDEC basic Verilog rule set. And so here the rule set argument is going to allow us to add an entire rule set. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use the next command, which is the policy.clear, which is going to remove all of the current policies. So I'll go ahead and copy paste that over. And now if we were to run the list rules again, we'd see the same thing as over in the GUI, which is that there are no policies currently enabled. So if we list our rules, no records appear. Now, we can also add, not via rule sets, but rather by individual rules, and those individual rules can have wildcards in their names. So for example, if I go ahead and run this line, it'll add in all of the rules, which are ALDEC basic VHDL that start with .205 and finish with anything. And it's also going to add all of the rules, which are in the category ALDEC basic VHDL .10 and then any 2 remaining characters after that. So after I run that line and I run my list rules, you'll notice that we've added in 17 records here. So we have a few that begin with 10, so that's going to be the first 2 here, and that end with 2 specific digits. And then all the rest are anything that begin with 205 and then end with anything after that. So we have those 17 records here. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and use our next command, so we can also reload here and see that in the policy viewer that we only have those 17 policies enabled. So closing that up, we can go ahead and move over to our next policy, which is going to be to delete some more of these. So we'll go ahead and run project.policy.delete. So it's going to go ahead and remove specifically all of these that are listed here. And it's formatted just like the add command. So it's going to remove the 1001 policy, this one. And it's also going to remove every single one of the 205 policies. So if I run this command and then I list my rules, you'll notice that the only one that's survived is the 1017 command. Now we can also go ahead and reload this and take a look at the policy viewer and see the exact same changes going on here. And the next command we'll take a look at is going to be the default command. So the default command is going to set whatever your project's preferences in your policy editor are and remove them and instead replace them to match the preferences of the global policy viewer. So here in the global policy viewer, you'll notice that I have all of the ALDEC CDC rule set enabled. So if I were to say click global policy here, it would enable all of them. And this essentially does that. So if I run project policy default and then I reload, you'll notice that this starts my global policy and I can list my rules and you'll notice it's exactly the same as when we started. It lists all 58 of the ALDEC CDC rule set. Now we can go ahead and move on to the next few commands, which are going to have to deal with the name of your policy. So here, I'm going to go ahead and open up the this window, and I'll go ahead and run the project policy name command. In particular, this command is going to force the name of this policy, as if you were to export it to a file, to be whatever name it is you type here. So that's what this argument is going to do. So I'll go ahead and enter that. And then when I reload this, you'll notice this is listed as my policy list. Now the next thing we can do with the .name command is also retrieve whatever the name is. So if you've set it to something, you can also have it print back out to you. So here's the my policy list. We also have the show rule config command. So this is going to get into your rule configurations, as well as a few of these other commands, which are also about rule configurations, before we move on to the waivers. So the show rule config command is going to run, and what this is going to do is it's going to list out whatever rule we specify, and it's going to show us its rule configurations. So in particular, for rule 1.12 of the ALDEC CDC rule set, this has 3 parameters. So those parameters are severity, rule tags, and the synchronizer type. The rule tags here cannot be changed. The severity and the synchronizer type can be changed. So the severity can be changed, but you can't have multiple values. And the synchronizer type can be changed to have less or more values and to remove or replace any of these individual ones already there. However, you'll notice that these have not been changed because they are listed as default. So we haven't actually edited them yet. So these next rule config commands are going to be things that add or take away or replace the values of these parameters. So, for example, this first command, which is going to be the add value command, will either add onto an existing parameter list or replace a particular parameter's value, I should say. So if I were to copy this first line, and that's going to be all the way down to here, and then I can go ahead and paste it, put a space, and then I'll copy over the second half of that line. What this is going to do is it's going to add a value to the rule 1.12 of the ALDEX CDC rule set. And in fact, we've listed two parameters here that we're going to add values to. So it's going to add the error value to its severity parameter, which here severity is a type of parameter that can only have one value. So instead of adding both warning and error, it'll just replace warning with error. And then the second parameter here, which here is the synchronizer type, will not be replaced, but rather added onto. And the parameter we'll be adding on is going to be called the FIFO parameter, which is the synchronizer type. So we can go ahead and press enter, and then we can go ahead and show our rule config again. So I'll go ahead and show my rule config. And you'll notice here that our severity has changed from warning to error, and the default tag has been omitted now because this isn't default. The rule tags are unchanged, and the synchronizer type has had the FIFO value added to it. And so you'll notice it also does not have the default tag any longer. Now, what you can also do is you can go ahead and remove parameters. So this next command is going to be the delete command. So what this is going to do is we're going to take our command, and then we're going to take a look at the rule 1.12, which is going to have the parameter, or rather the argument, all parameters, which is just going to delete every parameter. And when I say delete, I don't mean that it's going to remove everything, but rather that the command is going to replace all of whatever it currently is with its default parameters. So here, if I enter this in and I go ahead and show the rule config, you'll notice that these have gone back to our default values. Now, the next thing I want to show is going to be still for the add value command, but with a few different arguments listed. In particular, we're still working with the exact same rule, but you'll notice that here I have a parameter listed, the synchronizer type, which is going to be set to FIFO, but I'm also adding another synchronizer type, memory, and then I'm adding a third synchronizer type, the half cycle. So if I go ahead and run through this, so I copy these in, I'll go ahead and copy paste the first line, and then I'll do the same for the second. And then we go ahead and run this, and then we go ahead and show our rules. You'll notice that we added in every single one of those. So first the FIFO, and then the memory, and then the half cycle synchronizer types. So you can make multiple additions to one parameter with just one command. Now the next command is going to be the delete command again. And here you'll notice that we can go ahead and delete, rather than all of our parameters, we can essentially reset just one of them. And in this case, I'll be resetting just the synchronizer type. I could also reset multiple of them at once, if I didn't want to do all of them, but I did want to do multiple. And so you'll notice that the synchronizer type has gone back to its default value. So now that we've done that, the last few new commands that we'll be going over are going to be the get value and the set value commands. So the first one is going to be the get value command. So the get value is exactly as it sounds. It's going to retrieve the value of whatever parameter you give it. So here for rule 1.12 and for parameter synchronizer type, I can go ahead and run the get value command, and that's just going to print out the values within the synchronizer type parameter. And I can also use the set value command, which is very similar to the add value command, except in the case of a parameter like the synchronizer type, it doesn't add on an additional value, but rather replaces the entire value with whatever it is you've listed. So I'll go ahead and copy paste this into the command line, and we'll see that in action. So here we expect this to look at rule 1.12, change the parameter synchronizer type to just be ND flip-flop to essentially get rid of everything else because we're setting it, not adding to it. And then we're also expecting to change the severity to an info type. And so if we go ahead and run the show config, here we'll see that the severity has been changed, it's non-default, and the synchronizer type has been entirely replaced or set to just the ND flip-flop value. So that's all of the commands for the projects, and now we'll move on to the commands for the waivers. The list of the waiver commands is much shorter than those for the policies. We'll go ahead and start with this first one, which is the project.waiver.add command. And so essentially what this is going to do is you're going to select whatever rule it is or rules that you are adding this waiver for. You can also specify all if you want it to be waived for all rules. And then you want to specify over on next to that what it is what file or instance or module type you are excluding from that rule, or you're waiving from that rule. So here I have a file listed, and so that's going to be this bin2bcd.verilog file. So that entire file is going to be excluded or waived from every single rule of all of my policies. And I can also add the -comment argument to put a comment for my waiver. So this can contain important information like why it's been waived, or perhaps contain information for when the waiver can be removed. So what I can do is I can go ahead and actually open up the waivers for my current Blackjack Verilog project, and you'll notice that at the moment there's one that's currently sitting here for an instance I-17. And what we can do is we can go ahead and paste this into our command line, go ahead and run that command, and then we can go ahead and reload our changes, and we'll notice we see a change here in the waivers. So all of the modules within this file have been waived from every single one of our policies. So what we can do now is we can go ahead and also list them out in the command line if you're curious as to how they appear in the command line. And they appear in a similar format as they did in the GUI. All of the rules are waived for this entire file, and for this particular instance, there is a one rule that's been omitted or waived. Now we can also go ahead and get rid of all of our waivers using the next command, which is the .clear command. And so if we were then to list out all of our waivers, you'll notice that there aren't any for this project. Now I'm going to go ahead and run the next command, which shows a few different possible configurations for the add. So here you'll notice that instead of adding all the rules using the all keyword, we're adding a specific number of rules, so all.cdc 1.3 and 1.2. And we're also adding those to a particular unit rather than an entire file. So this is for one module, and the module is the BCD2 LED module. And then we're adding in another comment for that. So we can go ahead and run that command. And then if we open it up in the GUI, we'll notice that we see that same change here. So we have the BCD to LED, and here we have the comments for those waivers. And we can also view the same information using the .list command in the actual command line, same exact information. Now we can also take a look at the next command, which is the remove command. And so this is going to do exactly what it sounds like. It's going to remove the waiver for the given rules on the given units or instances or files. So we can go ahead and run this command, and it's going to remove just this rule from BCD to LED, or rather this rule waiver. So now if we go ahead and list it, we'll see we still have one of the waivers, but not the 1.2 waiver. And we can see the exact same information again over here in this view. Now, the next command I'll go ahead and run is to show another way to use the .add command. So this one is just for a specific instance, and this is the instance we saw earlier that was waived. And if we list it, we have one particular rule waived for one instance of a module. Now we can also change comments on the fly using just the comment command. And so what this is going to do is it's going to add a comment for a particular rule on whatever the instance or file or module it is. And then it's going to change that comment to the given comment here using the comment argument. So if I go ahead and run this, and then I list my waivers, you'll notice that the instance I-17 has a comment now, whereas before you'll notice that we did not include a comment. It just listed the rule that was waived. Now I'll also go ahead and run this next command, which is going to be, again, the add command with a few different arguments, just to get an idea of how they can be used. So here we're adding in two other rules, or rather waiving two other rules, 1.10 and 1.11. And for this, we're doing the entire directory. So it's not just one file, it's not just a module or an instance, but rather all of our source files in this case, given by this directory. And here I can go ahead and add in a comment. And so this comment is going to be for the entirety of these source files, and it's going to waive all of them. So if I enter that in, and then I go ahead and list my waivers, you'll notice here that at the very top, I have for the entire source directory, both 1.10 and 1.11 have been waived for everything. And we can also see that change over in the GUI mode, where we see that the entire source directory has been waived of those two policies. Now, we're done with the waiver commands and also the policy commands, with the exception of two, which are under the export command name. So we can export our policies or our waivers in the same way that you could using the waiver export button here and the policy export button here. So what we can do is we can go ahead and run these commands, and it's going to specify what you want the name of the policy file or waiver file to be, and also you can specify where you want it to be saved to. If these arguments are omitted, there are default values. So for the path, you'll just be set to whatever the current directory is, and then the policy name is going to be the name of the project that you're in, and then followed by an underscore policy. So we can go ahead and run these. So we'll export those policies. So we've successfully exported this project policy, and we can go ahead and export those waivers as well. And so now that those are exported, we could always check in whatever directory we're in. So it looks like these have been saved to the source directory. So if we look at the source directory over in the GUI, yes, we do see those policies listed, or rather the policy underscore name.do, which was specified with this command, and the waivers underscore name.do. So that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching.